All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to start chapter 2 this week, and it will be, for most of you, this will be your introduction to HTML and CSS. I think I've stated in the past, this is not an HTML class, but you got to know it. So we're going to go through and touch on some basic stuff. We're not going to get too deep, and you won't need to get very deep for this class. Of course, anything that you want to know, you can Google it and figure it out. Ask a question, how do you do this in HTML? And you'll get 400 answers. The W3 schools websites are really good resources if you need to learn how to do something. And I don't think any of you have a problem. Of course, if you do, just send me an email and we'll work together on getting you to know what you need to know. Apologize for my voice. It's a little bit raspy and I'm sorry that you have to listen to it, but it is what it is. This week there are 3 assignments. So you'll have the self-test exercises. And I'm going to want you to do these on a Word document and submit them in Moodle. In order to get there, if you go through, like if you click on your reading, you'll be into this Engage stuff. And at the end of each chapter, there are self-test exercises. If it ever loads, you can go right from the index right to the self-test exercises. This week there's 16 questions. Sometimes there'll be more. Most of the time there'll be less. Just write the question and the answer in a Word document and submit that to me. It's a good reinforcement for what we're learning and what we're doing, what I'm showing you. Plus, it'll help you with the quizzes. Also, there will be a review assignment. Again, that's something you will submit in Moodle, and we will cover this a little more in just a minute. But this will be this week's review assignment. You're going to create this page exactly as you see it right here. Colors, headings, centered, lists within lists, and decorated tables. Pretty simple, easy to do. We'll cover that in a second. And then, of course, the last thing that's graded is the quiz. Just answer the questions. Easy enough. Also, when you click on the instructor video, obviously that's the link that you clicked on to watch this video here. I have videos from where I previously taught this class on my YouTube channel. If you want to visit any of those older videos, may help reinforce some of the things. I'm going to be talking about the same exact stuff. Maybe I explain it a little different. It's just an additional resource for you to have. All right, so this week you're going to read the chapter. You're going to watch the Cengage videos. And this link is just for the code that is produced from the video in Cengage. For example, well, here's the video in Cengage. If it ever comes up. So you'll listen to this guy, and he's going to teach you a little bit about HTML. I'm going to say a lot of the same things that he does, but I'm going to show you different ways to do things. In this video,
we're going to create
he's loud. In this video, it may be kind of blurry. It's blurry to me. But you can see on the left-hand side, this is his notepad. He's using a Macintosh or Mac computer. I use Windows. If you use a Mac, that's great, but I use Windows. I don't really know anybody that codes with Mac, but that's what this guy's doing. So he uses would be his notepad in Windows on the side here. This is where he's going to write all of his HTML. This window right here is his web browser, probably Safari or something. He has 2 web browsers open, but this is the one, when he edits the HTML on the left and saves it, he'll refresh the web browser and you'll see it in action here as it appears on the web. And then, of course, down here on the bottom is his File Explorer where he has his HTML pages. You can do that, and if you are using a Windows computer, it will look like this. So I have on the left side, I have my notepad. I have the web browser. I only have one open instead of two. And here's my file explorer where you can see my HTML page. Now, if I put stuff in the body here, write a simple paragraph, and then close it out. If I save this and then I refresh the web browser, you can see the text has appeared. So you edit HTML documents in Notepad or something similar, and then you view them through the web browser. That's what makes a web page. Of course, you got to save it somewhere. So you just, if you can see here, I don't know if it's too small or not, the icon that is next to the HTML page is a Firefox icon. That's a browser I use most. It default, all my HTML pages will default open in Firefox, but you can open it in Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever your favorite browser is. So in order to edit these, you have to right click, open with, and then select Notepad so that you can then edit the text. Instead of using Notepad, just don't like it. It's too plain, and there are other softwares out there that are much more helpful. On the course page, wherever that may be, that's not it. I have put a couple of links here for you. This is Notepad++, and it will take you to the Notepad++ download website. Download whichever version you want to use. Usually go with the most recent, but they have other weird ones. I don't know what Happy Users Edition is. Unhappy Users, I don't know. Stand Up for Ukraine 8.4, whatever. If you want to use this, you don't have to use this software at all. Doesn't matter to me, but this is a good option. And Notepad++ it's just a text editor, just like Notepad. But if I open this, choose another. I don't know if it'd be on here. That ain't gonna work. So if I go to File, Open, navigate to my file. I apologize, my paths are really long. Open. So this is the same file, open. This is Notepad, and this is Notepad++. In Notepad++, you have it makes it look better. And this is something that I really appreciate. These different, where the tags, and these are all, in HTML, these are all called tags. They're lit up in blue. Your text will be black. I'm not sure. It probably does a bunch of other things too. Again, I don't use this much, but if my choices were Notepad Plus and Notepad, I'd use the Plus version. So Notepad++ is a good option, unless you collapse everything if you want to. I think it may spell check. No. So instead of div, I put dis just to see if it would do anything. But when you put div, it gives you options. If you click on that, no, it doesn't do that. Let's see. I know it'll open and close stuff. Div. Well, I hit enter. It didn't do nothing. Any rate, Notepad Plus is a better option than Notepad. It's all what you get used to, though. And it's something that you'll notice in all of the courses I teach. I don't care how you do it. A lot of coding and your environments and how you do things is personal preference. Now, there are certainly standards that we all have to adhere to. There's a certain way to do things. But in general, if it works, it's right. At least on the low end where we're starting at. So that's Notepad+. What I would use instead is an IDE, and that's an integrated development environment. You'll hear that term probably every course, every coding course you go to, an IDE. A lot of languages have their own special IDE that works best or whatever. I like to use Visual Studio Code for this. And again, I put a link in the course for Visual Studio. If you click on that and click on that, it will take you to Visual Studio. And if you want to use this, you want to use the community version. It is free. You can do whatever you want on it. I'm still on 2019, so my lessons may or may not look the same as yours if you're using 2022, but they will be very similar. I just download and install that. Make sure you take note of where it's installed and all that, so you have your path information, but that is what I would suggest. And in Visual Studio, you can do all kinds of things in here. It's a new project. This isn't specifically made for HTML or anything. Obviously, you can do HTML and Notepad, so there's nothing really special just for HTML. But with this, if you plan on coding in the future, you do in Python or Java, C#, Visual Basic, you start getting into Azure, Microsoft Azure, .NET, all the different things that we learned in the last chapter. So you want to use those different languages to make device-specific apps. You may find that this is something, if you use it in this course, you know where all the buttons are, and you can go from there. But this is a very nice tool, and this is what I use. So instead of having all those windows open, I just have this one IDE open, and then I can open that same HTML page right here. It shows my code. Things are highlighted in different colors, and you can change that based on your preferences, however you want them. Everything that's in the folder that you're working on, all the files, whether it be your images, your JavaScript, your CSS, that'll all be right here, as opposed to having the File Explorer open. Now for this course, or this assignment, just chapter 2, you will have probably 2 files. You will have your HTML and your CSS. As you can see, it put it right up here. As soon as I created the file in the Windows Explorer, it showed it right in here. Later on, what we'll have is several folders. You'll have your JavaScript. You will have your any images, and you will probably have a folder for your CSS documents, and you'll keep those in there. Maybe, possibly. Again, this is all preference. I like to keep my stuff pretty well organized, because when you start working on bigger web applications, there are a lot of files, and you start getting confused as to where they're at, naming conventions and all that stuff. It can be a real pain. So the more organized you are, the better off you're going to be. But for now, we are just going to keep it simple, and you should have 2 files. Or at the end of this chapter, you will have 2 files. So like I said, the assignment this week is going to look like this. This will be a first web page. So we're going to have a header, another header, a small paragraph, and then we're going to have one list. So you can see this ordered list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then underneath you can have 4 different unordered lists. And then we're going to do a table with a simple border. In order to do that, you're going to start with, basically the same thing that the guy had in his other video. Basically the same stuff. You can put your title in here. First HTML page. And I specify HTML5. You don't really need to do that anymore because everything's HTML5, but I guess I still do. I'm old enough to remember when it just came out. So a couple things. All of your HTML documents will start with this doc type. Oh, let me zoom this in for you. If I can. Okay. Hopefully this makes it a little bit easier to see in the video. All of your HTML documents will start with that doc type. It's an exclamation point, doc type, HTML. That simply lets the browser know as it's looking at it, hey, this is going to be HTML code in here, so you need to translate it so that we can read it. Then your, like I said, everything is a tag, right? So everything in the document is going to be HTML. You're going to open the tag like this. Oh, and if you use an IDE, it'll put in the closing tag. So you have an open tag. It just says HTML within the little brackets there. And then the closing tag simply includes the backslash, which is on the same key as your question mark. And everything that you type for the whole web page, mostly, is going to be inside these two brackets. So you're going to give yourself a little space. The only thing that may or may not be outside these brackets is some script later on. But that, again, that's not how I code. So, well, there's an asterisk next to everything I say because you can do things differently. But this is how I do it. So you've got your HTML document. Right now, this just says, okay, there's a page here, blank page. The first thing you need is a head or header. You can call it a header, but the tags are head. And inside the head, that's where your title would go. My first HTML5 page, right? Document. This is where a lot of other things will go, like meta information. Meta information is lots used for our search engine optimization. You can put keywords in here so that the web crawlers will find it. Where you link all of your style sheets, you link your CSS, all that will be in the head. So it's just like a header. It's not really seen by the user, but the browser will interpret that or will look at that. All right, so after the head, you're going to have the body. And again, you can keep these, the body and the end HTML tags, or both closing tags, usually close together, because the body is going to be pretty much the whole thing. There's no generally any spaces between them. Two, I forgot to mention indentations. So this really should look like this. So you want to indent everything that's contained within something else. So you have, let's say the body is contained within the HTML, but not within the head, right? So the body and the head are separate. They're at the same level, but they're both inside the HTML. And by using these, the tabs, the indentation, it helps someone who's reading your code and helps you understand what's inside what, the parent-child relationships, and that becomes pretty important way down the road. So it's a very good practice to have. Additionally, when if you're working in an enterprise environment, you're not going to be the only one working on the code. It's going to be you and a team or a bunch of other people. If they can't read your code, they're going to get mad at you. And I'll tell you from experience, if you're working on a project, you have to step away for a couple days, a week, a month, and you come back to it and you can't read your own code, you're going to be mad at you too. And that happens all the time. You'll get in the zone, you'll start working, it's working great, you have to step away. And when you come back, you're like, man, I forgot what I was doing, where I'm at, and how this works. So comments, and well, we don't do a whole lot of commenting here, but in other programmers, other languages, you should always comment. And here, the indentions will probably be the biggest help. All right, so we've got our doc type body. Something else that I like to do inside the body is create a wrapper. It's kind of like just putting another a box inside the body, and then that box, or the wrapper, what I always call it, becomes the whole page. It helps when styling later, and I'll show you what I mean here. Like, we're going to create a div, and we're going to give it an ID of wrapper. And then all of my stuff's going to go in here. So when I go to my CSS, your CSS file doesn't need any, doc types or any of that. You just call it out here. So if I want to and CSS, cascading style sheets, I don't really even understand what that means, but the keyword is style. So style, that's how you're going to make your page look okay. For instance, if I go ahead and open up that my web page, did I save it? I did not save it yet. Let's see if I can. Oh, let me close all these out. Sorry for that. Getting emails. All right, so if I go to File, save all, and then I open that up again, my first HTML5 document. So this is it right here. There's no style, there's no nothing. It's just white. Everything is, the text is all going to be left justified all the way to the left as far as it'll go. If I make this smaller, it tracks to the left. And there's no style on it. In order to make this look better, look different, or look however I want it to, I have to style that page. And that's what the CSS is for. So I am going to, let's say I want to style the body. Well, there's only one body, one type of body on the page. Just an aside, this is this is also a nice benefit of having an IDE rather than Notepad. If you can see all these options here, just starting with like background attachment, blend mode, clip, color, image. These are all things that you can style on a web page. You are never going to remember all of them. So maybe you want to do something you've never done before. These IDEs make it easy to kind of do different things. But here we're just going to do background, and we're going to color it blue. So when you call background, you put a semicolon. When you tell it what color, you put colon and semicolon here. You go to save all, and go back to your web page. And before you go back to your HTML, before you display it, you have to link the style sheet. And if you remember, I said this earlier, that goes in the head. In order to do that, and this is how you will attach or link your style sheets and your JavaScript going forward. For style sheets, it's link rel style sheet. Give it a type. I must hit the enter key. Type equals text / CSS and href. This is how you link anything. If you're linking an image, you're linking placeholder. It's always href. And this is another added benefit to using an IDE is I always forget what I name my files. Here we want to link the file, the CSS file, to the page, and I can just see right over here what it's called. So that's nice to have in an IDE. Blend_chapter 2.css. A little closing bracket on there, and now we have linked the style sheet to the page. So if we save all, and I go ahead and open up the HTML document, so you can see as it was before, there's no styling. As soon as I refresh it, the background changes to blue because it's linking this style sheet. What does it do? It's linking the style sheet here, and in the style sheet, we told it to make the body blue. What I like to do, again, we see this this wrapper here, we can, so it's a div with the ID of wrapper. And in order to identify something that has an ID, we use the hashtag or the pound symbol if you're old like me, and the wrapper, the name of it. And in there, we just do like background, and we'll call it green. And save all. And if I open it back up and hit refresh, you'll see that the background of the wrapper, that the box within the box, has turned green. So the wrapper's green, the body's blue. Now these divs will grow and shrink depending on the content that is in them. So let's say within the wrapper, we're going to make a couple other divs, and we'll give them a class. Just call it div class, just for, I don't know, because we want to. And we'll make a couple of these. So we have 3 divs within the wrapper, 3 boxes within the wrapper box. If I save that and pull it back up and refresh, you can see that nothing happened. And let me zoom in on that code for you so you can see that. So I got 3 divs within the wrapper, but right now they're not displaying because there's nothing in them. So they will stay as small as possible or invisible if there's no content. If I put some text in here, let's just add a little paragraph. Class 1. Two and 3. And again, you can see the indents. You can see how this may become important later as you start adding a lot of content within content. You want to know what's inside of what so you can style it properly. But I've got a paragraph within each one of the divs, which is inside the wrapper. So if I save all and then open this back up and refresh, you can see that there are now 3 div classes in here. So to style these differently, we'd go into the CSS, and to identify a class, use a period instead of the hashtag. So ID is a hashtag and a period is a class. And a class allows you to style many things. They may be, I don't know, paragraphs or divs or list items or whatever. If you put that class designation on it, it will use the styling within the CSS for that. And I'm just using background as, something easy to show, but there are a million different things that you can style using CSS. So if I save all and then open that back up, refresh, you can see that the body's blue, the wrapper is green, and inside the wrapper, those div classes are red. Those boxes are red. And again, those will grow and shrink as you put content in them, or you can specify the height and width. You'll also notice that there's some green between the red because there's built-in paddings. There's all kinds of things. We'll deal with a little bit of that later. But let's say I wanted these div classes to all be 200 pixels tall and 200 pixels wide. And then we save that and refresh. You can see that not only does the wrapper change, but the div boxes or the div classes change, the boxes change. It doesn't style the wrapper, but the wrapper grows based on the contents inside it. And each one of the div class boxes is 200 pixels wide, 200 pixels tall. So that's a little about divs. What else do we need to know for this? Let's see. We got, let's get rid of the boxes. So this, my first HTML document, we're going to change this from a paragraph to a header. We're just going to put H1 there. Now, if you've ever worked with a Microsoft Word document, you know there's different header styles. If you think, you go to Design tab and you select some text and click on header 1, it'll be big and bold. Header 2 is a little less big and bold. Header 3 is a little less big and bold. It kind of works the same way here. And I'm just kind of going off the assignment, what's written on there. I don't know why it says available on the web. Maybe available on the web. I don't think this doesn't probably spell check, so I don't know if that's right, but whatever. And then a paragraph. So we'll see the difference between header 1, header 2, and a paragraph. To develop websites that can be accessed by any device and can serve as, I can't read the rest of this, can serve as cross that's a long run-on sentence. Let's save all and reopen, refresh. So we can see here that the text is all left justified. This is, oh, sorry, there. The top is an H1, this is H2, and this is a normal paragraph. So you can see the difference between the stylings on each one of those. And those are built in. You didn't have to specify those in your CSS. They're just built in, and that's the way it interprets them. If you wanted to specify, and I think in your assignment, the text is white, so it's not text or anything, it's just color. So if you put color, it will affect the font or the text. Just color affects the font and text. Save all. Open this back up. Refresh, and you see the text changed. Now, in the assignment, all of the text is centered, and that is text align. So again, having these IDEs is really nice because there's all these different emphasis, color, indent, justify, shadow, transform, underline, all that stuff is something that you can style with CSS. You're never going to remember all of them except the ones that you use most. So having an IDE is a good thing. So again, color is the foreground, text line center will center all of your text on the page. And if we save all that and open this back up, refresh, you can see that all the text is now centered on the page. And that, so if you watch the paragraph, it grows with the size of the window. Now, I don't know, I guess I didn't get to it, but the whole point of having that wrapper is so that I can specify a width so that it will always remain in the center. I'll put margin auto on there. So the width is 960 pixels, and that's something that we used to use. It used to be a standard based on the monitor sizes and the resolutions. That was a good centered thing where it didn't take up the whole page and it looked nice and neat. I'm not sure how relevant that is anymore because you look at it from, you can look at websites, web apps from on anything from super widescreen monitors to little phones. So in the future, we'll probably use some percentages there. But this is what I used to do, and this is why. And then I would just center it or use the auto margin so that when we save all and go back to looking at the web page, when I refresh it, it stays centered and it stays at 960 pixels. Now you can set that as a minimum so it doesn't ever get any bigger than that, but it will get smaller. If I just do it like I have now, I can keep shrinking it and it doesn't get any smaller. It just disappears off the page. So it's not really that appealing, but this is why I do the wrapper. If it's necessary, may or may not be necessary anymore. Maybe if you just get rid of the wrapper and center everything within the body, that'd be better. But you can use that or not in your future projects. All right, so what else? Lists. A list. So we're going to go outside of the wrapper here. And there's two kinds of lists in the assignment for this week. You have an ordered list and an unordered list. If you're going to do an ordered list, that means it's going to number it for you. It's going to give you, however many numbers. I'll show you here in a second. An ordered list, you use the tag OL and then indent, and the first thing is going to be LI. That's a list item. So within your ordered list, you're going to have list items, the things that are in that list. And this week it's Apple, iOS, and then another list item will be Google Android. So we have our starting tag for the ordered list, 2 list items, and then the closing tag. Don't forget your closing tags. And if I save this and open the web page back up and refresh, you can see here that I have an ordered list with only 2 items in it. Let's get rid of this background blue. Another type of list is an unordered list. So the tags are going to be UL for unordered list, and obviously within those you're going to have, again, list items. The IDE makes it so much easier to type it because it puts the end brackets in and everything else. You don't have to think about it. If you're doing it the way they show you in the video, you'll notice a huge difference. So we have the unordered list, we have the opening, closing, and then within it we have 3 more list items. If we save all that and open the web page back up, refresh, you'll see that you have your ordered list that are numbered, and then underneath you have another list with just bullets because it's unordered. It's still in whatever order you put it in, but unordered lists just give you bullets. So that's how you do ordered and unordered lists. Obviously, you'll do a little more than that for the homework, but same concept. Just copy and paste. And lastly, we are going to touch on tables. So a table is declared using the table tab, the open and close. Tables usually have table headers, and that's where you'd put your things like labels. What is this column called? For this project, we're not using those. We're just going to concentrate on the rows and the cells. So for each row, within the table, you're going to have table row, which is open and closed with TR. Make sure you have open and closing, and that is the row all the way across. Within the table row, you're going to have table data, and that is what occupies each cell in that row. So we have Apple, iOS, and then same thing as up here. Let's see, iPad, phone, touch. and this gives you this will give you one row across with 4 cells in it. And if we save that, save all, go back to the web page, this out and refresh, you'll see this is your table. Doesn't look like a table. You can't see the grid marks, you can't see backgrounds, you can't see any of that. That is something that you will have to put in, unless when we start using jQuery later, it'll style your tables a certain way. If you want it different, you have to change it. But so we'll go style that table in CSS. So here, it doesn't have a class, it doesn't have an ID. We just have to do table. And for let's do the background. Make it gold and see what this does. Save all. Refresh. It makes the background. It covers the whole table. If you want to style the table row, you should. So this is like parent-child. I don't think we're going to do a whole lot of parent-child stuff in this course. Again, it's not an HTML course, but to style each table data, you want to specify the table and then the table data. So you could just probably do table data. Let's experiment real quick, and we'll do border. So when you do a border, it's nice. These IDEs, this pulls it right up here. You could do like border 5 pixels and then border solid, border red, and make 3 different commands, or you can do it all in one line. This makes it easier. And here it shows you can dash, dotted, double, groove, hidden, inherit, all these different ways you can do borders. And this here shows you can put 3 commands in one line, and these are the options. But let's do like a groove. Oh, I should put pixels first. Let's do 2 pixels, groove, and we'll just do black. And if I save this, save all, wrong button, refresh. So the table data all gets its own, the table data all gets its own border, that groove border, 2 pixel groove border black. If we do this, let's see if this makes a difference. I don't know if you could see that. I don't know if I zoomed in on it. Yeah, okay, good. And refresh. That doesn't work. Oh, it's because I spelled table wrong. Goodness gracious. Refresh. Okay, it does the same thing. But what if we just want the, so like this box has a right border, this box has a left border. What if we just want it to look like grid lines? Well, we'll just do something like this, and I'm just going to copy and paste it in here. Get a good look. And this should style it just how you want it, at least for today. And refresh. Did I save it? I probably didn't save it. Save all. Refresh. There. That centers your table. It makes the 1 pixel solid black border. Puts a little padding around it. It gives the border radius, it specifies the background color, border radius, a collapse, which brings the table size in, so there's not too much extra space except what you specify. And that looks good for this week's assignment. Now, I encourage you to go in there and play around, especially if you're using the IDE. If you're going to use Visual Studio, look and see what different kind of stuff you can do. Make a different web page. Design something for yourself. Just kind of get in there, play and experiment, and see what you can and can't do with tables and lists and whatever. The more you play with it, the more you'll understand what it is doing. It's hard when you don't have a goal, but we'll work through that. So this week again, just what are we doing? We are doing this. This is what you're going to come up with. I just gave you the table. I gave you the lists. I showed you how to center everything. This is super simple, especially because I've walked through it with you. But if you have any questions or if you don't understand something, please send me an email. And that should cover it for this week. Again, if you have any questions, send me an email, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.